Good morning, loyal opposition. Coalition of the Righteous, good morning. Good morning, citizens of Barbados. We've already had our national anthem played. On this today, what would be considered, although I heard nothing from our administration, today is a memorable day for us. June the 1st, 1987 was the day that the founding father of this country passed away. And so this day, Saturday, June the 1st, 2024, is a very memorable day. It is a day in which we remember the passing of the founding father of this nation in 1966, when the Right Honorable Errol Walton Barrow led this country into independence away from the colonial masters of our history and our past. It is regrettable that today, as we celebrate this memorable occasion, that we have an administration that seems hell-bent on placing us back in the hands of colonial masters. I draw your attention this morning, as I have given much thought to this day, to the fact that our leadership of this country has gone around the globe supporting neo-colonial masters. We have talked for years about reconnecting our roots with Africa, yet we hear very little concerning our leadership connecting with our African heritage, apart from the fact that our national flag was carried to Africa, draped over a casket and lowered into a hole. My understanding is that that flag was brought back out, although I'm investigating that. But the fact of the matter is that as a sovereign symbol, a flag should not even touch the ground. A flag is one of the most powerful symbols of sovereignty of any country and should be treated with that respect and dignity. If it is draped over a casket, what should happen is that the flag should be removed before the casket is lowered into the hole. Then that flag, as we have seen on many of the funeral services for the fallen soldiers of the United States, that flag is meticulously folded and handed to the parents and the family of those persons who have died in war. However, our flag went down into the hole. That is one of the largest disrespects of our sovereign symbol, the most powerful sovereign symbol that a country has, its flag. Then you connect that with the fact that according to what we have observed, we have a leadership that seems to be traveling the world to re-establish the colonial masters. That is why today we are marching yet again against the cybercrime bill. The reason we're pursuing this is because the source of the cybercrime bill is our colonial masters. It is not Africa that has been the source of a cybercrime bill. The cybercrime matter has originated in Budapest as an attempt to control illicit, illegal, and fraudulent activity on the internet. If you read the convention, you see nothing in the convention that would suggest, as we have recently seen in Guyana, that if a person speaks out against injustice or what they perceive to be matters of disagreement with their administration in their country, they ought to have the freedom of expression and freedom of speech, rights that are protected under the Charter of Human Rights. To fail or to establish any legislation that violates the rights of the people within that context is a violation of the people's rights and privileges. And so this morning we march yet again to sensitize you, this nation, concerning the threat to your sovereignty, the threat to your freedom of expression, the threat to your freedom of speech that the cybercrime bill in its current form will expose you to. We have just witnessed in Guyana the imprisonment of a talk show host such as Brass Tacks. If this bill passes, Mr. David Ellis may find himself at Dodds, and there may be others who will find themselves at Dodds, because if you open your mouth and speak against any of the government's policies, you will be considered an insurrectionist, so to speak. But this is what we face in this country. When our leadership should be pursuing the reconnection that they promised with Africa and connecting with financial assistance from the countries in Africa, we find them globe-trotting and advancing the interests and causes of the what we would consider today neo-colonial masters. Take a leaf out of the book of African leaders, Madam Prime Minister. They are standing up against the colonial masters. They're standing up against the attempt to restrict their freedoms of expression, freedoms of government, freedoms of speech, freedoms of culture. We recently had a Hollywood celebrity visit one of the countries in Africa, very scantily clad, and the First Lady criticized her vehemently for doing so and advised the young women of her country in Africa to ignore the standards that are being propagated around the world out of Hollywood. That is the kind of stance that we need to see in Barbados. This cybercrime bill will make it illegal for us to speak out on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, or any other talk that you can find, any other social media platform. And so we march again today to sensitize this country concerning the threat to their freedoms of expression. It is not by any strange means that the Barbados attorneys group, the lawyers of Barbados, have cautioned Bar Association, thank you, the Bar Association has cautioned government concerning this legislation of the cybercrime bill and indicated that it will open up the government to significant challenges in the court of law in this country. Imagine somebody being able to have the police come and arrest you for hurting their feelings. That is as ridiculous as you can find it. Saying something that you feel is an offense to you. And mind you, the penalty for such an act is 7 years in jail and $70,000 and or both. That is what is being promoted within the context of this country and within the context of this cybercrime bill. This is not a joke. Many of us in Barbados over the years have trusted our governments and our leaders to both do the right thing and say the right thing. This administration campaigned on two fundamental planks in their promise to this nation. One was transparency, the other was accountability. Well, transparency has gone through the door because we have many matters in this country, from the prison back to the Hope Housing Project, among others, where there is absolutely no transparency from this administration with regards to the challenges and the problems at any of these institutions or businesses. We also realize that there is no accountability. We have a government that is fundamentally saying to the citizens, we can do what we want to do and we don't have to give you an explanation. Well, I beg to disagree, because any government is the employee of the people who voted you into office. And the people who voted you into office did so with the intent that you look after the interests of the people of Barbados, not the interests of the World Health Organization. not the interests of the World Economic Forum, not the interests of the United Nations, but in the interest of the citizens of this country who voted you into office to look after that interest. But instead what we see is an administration that seems to be hell-bent on advancing the causes of international agencies and complying to almost everything that the international agencies demand without any resistance of any kind. And we are seeing these things played out before us, and as Barbadian citizens, it is time for us to wake up and realize that in a real sense, our freedoms and our liberties are on the threat. There is a little verse in the good book that tells us that there is a need to look for those who will restore the breach. It is glaringly obvious that the security breaches of Barbados, the security borders of Barbados have been breached. Our cultures have been breached. Our customs have been breached. And even things to do with how we develop our land has been breached. I drove around the country with a heavy heart to observe how many fields where we used to get frozen joys and brown-skinned girls. I know some of you will know what I'm talking about. Some of the younger ones may think I'm talking about a girl, but I'm not. I'm talking about sugarcane. That's what I'm talking about. And we drive around this country to observe how much agricultural land at a time when we are being advised to ensure that we can depend on our own self-production in our country. We have thousands of acres of land. Thousands of acres of land being directed into housing. These are things that ought to concern us, ladies and gentlemen, and I make a call to every Barbadian citizen to demand our administration to give explanations. Today we face a cybercrime bill in our Parliament and Senate that does exactly that. It threatens your expression not only in terms of face-to-face, but it threatens expression on every single internet platform that you can think of. We were told, stupidly I would have to say, that this cybercrime bill is only seeking to gather information. Why do you want to gather information concerning your people unless you have some intent and purpose other than what we already know? You already have information to do with us through the Ministry of Health. You already have information to do with us through the BRA. You already have information to do with us through the NIS. Why are you gathering information concerning Barbadian citizens in 2024? Why is this cybercrime bill suggesting that persons who speak out against an administration, most specifically this administration, will find themselves in danger or imprisonment or a significant financial fine? Why? The question has to be answered. A young man speaking in one of their political meetings, one of their branch meetings, made it clear that the reason this cybercrime bill is before Parliament and before Senate is to protect the ministers. Since when does a minister of government need protection against the criticism and analysis of the people of this country? If you're doing your job, you will have nothing to fear. You have nothing to fear when you are putting in street lights, not because it is time for World Cup 2024. It is time to have the electric grid in this country improved. It is your job when you're putting roads down in Barbados, not for cricket 2024. When you came to office, you received over $200 million from the Inter-American Development Bank for infrastructural development. All of a sudden, 4 years later, 5 years later, we are now going to be doing our roads. The reason our roads are being done is not for Barbadians. The reason they're being done is for people who are coming into this country for Cricket World Cup 2024, who you have to impress and give them the idea that the country is progressive. Look at the roads. This is the ridiculous nature of governance in 2024 that we as Barbadian citizens will no longer tolerate. We are now a republic, and a republic is by the people, for the people, and of the people. That That is why there is a march today. And we are thankful for the showers of blessing. I'm told Barbadians run from water, run to fire. But don't run from this water this morning. Join us in this march. Let your voice be heard, which is what the Prime Minister said during her run for Parliament in 2018. She said that was your right. And so you have a right to express yourself. I have a right to express myself, regardless of who likes it and doesn't like it. But the cybercrime bill is going to put that matter on the threat. Could you imagine today in Guyana, there is a young man in jail because he was hosting a call-in show where a person called in and spoke concerning a threat to the life of the administration in Guyana. And rather than the police contact the telecommunications offices to get that telephone call trace, they go and arrest the host of the show who did not say what was said. That is the threat of the cybercrime bill. As a matter of fact, to make matters even worse, in Trinidad today, a Canadian citizen is being held under no accusation, without any charge being laid, simply because he refused to comply with the police and share with them information that he has. That is what the cybercrime bill is setting us up in this country for. And if you are a Barbadian citizen and that doesn't bother you, you must be fast asleep. There is a need for us in this nation to wake up and realize that our freedoms and our liberties via this bill are under threat. That is a reality. That is a reality. Look, we have a leadership in this country that is traveling up and down the length and breadth of this world, representing colonial masters, not representing the black people of the Caribbean, not representing the black people of this country, but pushing the agenda of every colonial international agency that you can find. The European Union has nothing to do with black people. Consider what Africa is currently telling all the European countries: get out of Africa. Burkina Faso has just kicked France out, Senegal getting ready to kick them out. The only people who seem to be embracing them is Barbados. We're inviting colonial masters to control our country yet again. And these are things that we must take seriously. We were told that we are reconnected with our roots in Africa, and that is great. But how many invitations have you heard come from Africa to the leadership of this country? How many times have you seen the leadership of this country in Africa for conferences? Are you aware of the fact that there was recently a conference on democracy, and guess where it was held? It was held in China, the most undemocratic country on the planet. And she was not invited to speak at that conference. It was a conference of African nations on democracy in China. And we have a leadership traveling the length and breadth of this world, speaking on climate change, speaking on World Health Organization's interest, inviting that devil down to this nation to be associated with him in Barbados. And we are talking about how we are going back to our roots in Africa. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Instead of that, we are supporting the European Union. And when you look at this cybercrime bill, I wish that I had given Dave a clip to play for you to hear the former head of the International Monetary Fund telling the rest of the world about something called pre-bunking. You know what pre-bunking is? Pre-bunking is stopping you from expressing before you express it what you want to express. And she likened it onto the preventative method. And so we know now that the United Nations are pushing the agenda of a cybercrime bill to silence the citizens of our country and countries around the world when it comes to these matters. Pay attention, Barbadians. Pay attention. That's what this cybercrime bill is about. It's about restricting our liberties and our freedoms. That's what the UN is promoting in Barbados. It is not a locally grown position. It is a position that is being propagated across the world by the United Nations. And this cybercrime bill has nothing to do in the full context of what the Budapest Convention has articulated to protect us from fraud and crime and cyberbullying and pedophilia online. That is the reality of it. But instead of that, we have an administration that is telling the people of Barbados, you will no longer be able to express yourself because it offends us. It hurts my feelings. Well, I'm sorry. If I hurt your feelings this morning, sue me. Because that's the stupidness of this bill. Imagine me being taken to court because I hurt someone. You know how many times my feelings get hurt? I ain't carried nobody to court yet. But we will find our backsides up in God for 7 years, or you're going to pull your pocket for $70,000. You don't even have a man who's accused for murder having to go through that. But you dare to open your mouth in this country and speak out. This march could not happen. You had a union leader. I ain't calling the names because I don't want to get sued. But you had a union leader suggesting that marches and protests are a threat to democracy. How in the name of God you're going to support a union and the union people can't march and the union people can't protest when they're not getting paid proper salaries and you're not looking after their interests? You're a hypocrite and you should step down as the leadership of a union, because as a leader of a union you must be able to articulate the interests of the people that you represent. And that is what this cybercrime bill is doing. It is restricting the ability of the average Barbadian. They don't have no problem with hire mighty folks, $70,000 is nothing for them to pull their pocket and pay, and they ain't going to jail either, because they know the judge, they know the magistrate, they know the lawyers, and they're going to jail. But they pay the $70,000 fine. You don't. You ain't got $70,000, so where do you think you're going? And incidentally, the food I'm told by Mr. Franklin up there, dogs, ain't very good. Mr. Franklin is telling us that none of the food, none of the intent is at work at God's prison. I know they got parliamentary privilege. They can get in Parliament and say what they want to say, and nobody can take action against them. But you and I out here, the ordinary citizen, who they work for, can't say nothing. So glad to have you here with us this morning again, as we protest the cybercrime bill currently before the House of Assembly in both the Parliament and the Senate, being discussed by the Joint Select Committee. Over the last several weeks, many contributions have been made, both for and against this cybercrime bill. I dare say that those who are against are more prolific than those who are for. And we have every right to be against the cybercrime bill. We have every right to be concerned about this cybercrime bill. It tends to threaten our freedoms and threaten our expressions and threaten our freedom of speech. We are now being told that if we hear anything on social media according to this bill, that we all run the risk of being fined or imprisoned. Imagine you can have a conversation with someone face to face, and you may hurt their feelings or say something that offends you. The most they would probably do is give you one good hard slap. But now, we are being told that if I say something that hurts somebody's feelings, or causes you disturbance, or affects you emotionally or psychologically, that I can now go to jail for 7 years or have to pay $70,000. If you don't know what this cybercrime bill is about, I want to advise you to get informed concerning this bill. Because if this bill comes into force, this is one of the last marches you will see. It is a reality that we will not be able to speak out against the government when they are engaging matters that the citizens have no agreement with. Mind you, all the time, they can get in Parliament, say what they want to say, and be protected by parliamentary privilege. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the government is our employee, and you, as you stand on this side, will employ the government. He chose to do that in 2018. He chose to do that in 2022. Maybe the government has forgotten who they work for. They do not work for the World Health Organization. They do not work for the World Economic Forum. They do not work for the United Nations. They work for the people of Barbados. They work for the citizens of this country. And they are supposed to protect the freedoms, the liberties, and the rights of these people in this country. Now we have a bill before Parliament, highlighted, sponsored, and proposed by the government that is going to restrict our liberties and our freedoms. But you say to me, well, how can you say that? Well, let me tell you where I can say it. Because 2 days ago, a host of a show in Guyana was imprisoned for allowing a call-in person to speak against the government in Guyana. The man did not say anything as the host. The call-in person spoke, and the host found himself in prison. This happened in Guyana under the identical type of cybercrime bill that is being proposed here in Barbados. Everybody knows that the Prime Minister of Barbados and the President of Guyana walk hand in hand. Everybody knows that. The whole of the Caribbean knows that. And as a result of that, it will not surprise us if the identical rhetoric that is included in the cybercrime bill in Guyana that resulted in a talk show host being in prison be also included in our cybercrime bill in Barbados. That is why we in Barbados, we are not afraid to stand up and say, not about here. You know that old song, I wish Dave had it, the beach is mine, I can dig it there anytime. I don't care what they say. We know how no cybercrime bill about here. Y'all think I could do a little thing now? I can put my lyrics together. But listen, folks, let me get it straight. We have to understand what this cybercrime bill is about. Your freedoms are under threat. Your freedom of speech, your freedom of expression. Be careful what you send as a WhatsApp message, Telegram, or Signal, or TikTok, or for that matter, Instagram. The arms of the Barbadian law will stretch across the world. Even if you're living in Australia, they will be able to reach out and have you brought back here, fined and imprisoned for criticizing the government. When asked concerning this matter in the Joint Select Committee, one of the attorneys said it was only a collection of information. But what are you trying to collect information about me for? If you want to find out about me, you know my address. Come to my house and sit down and talk to me. Where are you trying to find out what is going on where my life is concerned? My bank account. Where are you trying to get me to force me into taking an ID that the World Economic Forum has already indicated can be used as a threat, intimidation, and persecution of citizens in their country? That's the reality. It's not conspiracy theory. Away with that rubbish. The biggest conspiracy theory people on the planet are governments. And the pandemic proved that. They told us the jump. I've got to be careful what you say these days, right? They tell us the jump would stop us from catching the disease. It didn't. They tell us the jump would stop us from having bad expressions and symptoms. It didn't. That's the reality of it. You go around the world and the entire world is saying the same thing. Millions of people are dying today. Young men and women dropping down dead for no reason. Right here in Barbados we have had that happen. They just had a young man, 14 years old, in the United States just dropped down dead for no reason. And he had it. He had the joke. You all think this is a joke? Well, the biggest promoters of misinformation, disinformation, and false information are the governments of our world. And the people do not trust them. We don't trust them here in Barbados when they tell us anything in that cybercrime bill, because we know that our freedoms and liberties are under threat. That is the reality of it. Take it back, repeat it, and come again. That's what you do in Cricket World Cup 2024. When you get hit for 6, you turn and you come again. You don't continue with the same foolish bowling all the time. You got different. Learn from the cricket that you want to sponsor and host for the next several weeks. Come again with the cybercrime bill. Follow the Budapest Convention that addresses fraud and addresses illicit activity online, addresses child pornography and pedophilia. Of course, they now refer to that under the Bible of psychology as persons who are differently attracted. What differently attracted? You're a pedophile, bottom line. That's what you are. But we can't say that if this bill passes, because then I will hurt somebody's feeling, and I will offend somebody. And as a result of that, I could find myself in a jail cell for 7 years. I'm too good looking to be going to jail. I mean, look at me. I'm so young. I can't go to jail now. Not when I'm doing such a good job and trying to help the people of my country to understand what is happening in our country. We do not have transparency. Nobody has told us. Let me ask you something. $8 billion in debt as a country. Where are you making the money from to pay that bill? My mother told me when you got a debt, don't borrow no more money to get out of it. Get a bigger income. That's what my mother told me. But Barbados producing what? Tourism and even producing nothing. They're taking all the agricultural land and turning it into housing. So we can't even get potatoes and yams exported. And none of them bring a bill before Parliament to tell me that I can't criticize them for this. What madness am I hearing? What you need to do is step down, step out, call an election, which I have dared you to do. If you think the iceberg is what you're seeing, you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you call the next general election. Because those who are for us are more than those who are against us. You only see the top of an iceberg, but the real master, the real danger of an iceberg is what you cannot see. And the most dangerous part of an electorate is a group of people you don't know what their position or their views are. So my brothers, my sisters, my fellow citizens of Barbados, pay attention to the cybercrime bill. This is a bill that will restrict your freedom of expression. It will restrict your freedom of speech. It is not what Barbados wants, not about there. I was just trying to find an email I shared with you on the show that speaks about how the Japanese immortalize and consider to be national treasures the people that are of significant importance to their history. Anybody who knows me knows that I have been a Barbados Labour Party supporter for years. I don't know about you. My mother was on the National Executive Committee of the party with Tom Adams down to Owen Arthur. My brother was in the Senate. My sister was a career diplomat. And I was in campaigns. But that was a different BLP. That's not the one we have today. And the one we have today, I distance myself from, because it does not have the interests of the people of this country as its primary responsibility. I spoke on the truck as I made my way here this morning, pointing out the fact, you know, I have never, there's a movie I saw, I've never forgotten it. Our reverends watch movies. In case you didn't think we didn't. Because we have to know what's going on. And I watched a movie called Django Unchained. And I saw what a master slave in a house looks like. And today, I regrettably have to say that Barbados has a leadership that is more interested in promoting the interests of our colonial masters that we want to unshackle ourselves from. Because you are jet setting and globe-trotting and linking only with, excuse me, who is not racist, the white people. The people of our colonial European masters, the European Union, the UK, the United States and Canada. I do not see the Prime Minister sitting down with the leaders of Africa. Although we were told that we are going back to Africa, back to our roots. You carried our flag there. And you placed it in a grave. And even if you brought it back out, the sovereign symbol of a nation, the flag, it should never touch the earth. Do you know, and I'll repeat it again, The African countries had a conference on democracy about a week or two ago, and it was held in China, and our Prime Minister was not invited. But every little stone throw that the European Union neo-colonial leaders have, we can find her on a stage behind a lectern speaking. That is a master slave. And I make no apologies this morning. If you had the black people of this country's interests at heart, you would be associated with our forefathers and our ancestors, and you would be taking a page out of their book. You see how they're getting rid of all the European colonial masters out of Africa, and we are welcoming them all to Barbados. And we have a Prime Minister who tells us that she has the interests of the people at heart. My wife turned to me and said this morning that since the song that we have has become so popular, the word pretend will have a different meaning to us from now on. I'm just pretending. Let me just thank the Royal Barbados Police Service for their significant assistance in every single march that we have had. Every one of them. We have had such a pleasant relationship, and I have grown to know so many of them. I hope that after the government changes, that I will be able to maintain the relationship I have with them today, as back then, you know what I mean now, as we did then. The government is changing. One of the most powerful things the Creator gave to humanity was a mouth. And according to the good book, a man's belly is satisfied by the fruit of his lips, and death and life are in the power of the tongue, and you will eat the fruit of it. So we are speaking life to the breaches in our country, and death to the administration. We are releasing that into the atmosphere. I am not praying for any of them to die. I am using it metaphorically in case anybody arrests me or seeks to arrest me because I'm threatening anybody with murder or death. I am speaking metaphorically. I am not suggesting any insurgency, but we are promoting civil disobedience. And the word civil means lawful. And that is what these marches are about. And so we are so happy to have you here. And we are happy to have some young people among us. I am told today that we are missing a lot of the young people because there's a rally, automotive rally in Trin as we speak. And a lot of the young people follow the motor racing events in Barbados. And we pray that that will go without incident. So we understand their absence here today.
Yeah.